Today we want to talk about grief funk. What's the funk? It sounds like something we don't even want in our life. It is a grief funk to me, Erica, is when you have emotions that you just can't get out. When you're triggered by a difficult event or an experience or a situation, when the depression sets in and you just can't move beyond the pain.
And I would also add to that, grief funks come when you feel like you're making progress and you take some few steps forward in your healing and you start to feel um, positive about your outlook and the changes that you're making and the work that you're doing. But then something triggers you and you fall back down into the sadness and despair. I feel like there's a level of discouragement that comes because you feel like you had a setback and
Yeah.
like then I'm like you get stuck like I'm never going to get over this, I'm
Yeah.
never going to move forward because I can't. So I feel like it's double things with the grief funk.
The other thing that happens, we see the grief funk all along the first year of healing. We see it come up over and over. But where it really shows up, where I think it really shows up, is after you've done your work with us, right? And you've gone on to living your life. This is the most prominent kind of funk that I can think of. And I want to share that. I've gone back on, my heart feels good. I really feel great. And then sometimes at that 1 year mark, we'll get calls from clients because now you've made that 1 year and all of a sudden you're just like, wait a minute. You can be rethinking, or you just really miss them, and that can send you into a funk. And so it is not uncommon for the griever to have to go back and say, hey, put voice to that part of it, of their grief, what's going on. But that's not where we're going. All of a sudden I just thought of someone who called me, and she's a beautiful soul, and she's in a grief funk after she's done the work. So it's not uncommon for us to hear that. It's getting into the grief funk is like a game changer, right? It's sometimes we can't shake it off. And so instead of trying to really reach out and try to get the help for it, we'll try to fix it ourselves. I'm
Which
gonna
makes it worse.
Yeah. I'm gonna go for an extra jog today, right? I'm gonna exercise, or I'll have an extra glass of wine, thinking that I can
Hmm.
shake it off. I can shake this off. I'm gonna plan a vacation. I'm gonna
Yep.
travel somewhere. Let me see if I can shake this off. And guess what? Wherever you go, there you are, and you have that grief funk with you because your heart is broken.
Yeah, for those of our friends that haven't received the full tool set that we teach in our
Yes.
program, um, it's very easy for them to get in the grief funk because they don't have the tools that we provide. But for like you said, the ones that have gone through the program and something happens, they definitely will try to fix it themselves because they're like, oh, I got this. I know what to do. This is, A, B, and C. And then, like you said, they'll have the wine or, I'm going to just watch this movie and take my mind off of it. I'm not going to think about it. Well, that they start to fall back into old habits. And next thing you know, instead of it being a week or two, the funk, it's a month or two.
Yeah.
And then they don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that happens with funk is that we get completely intellectual. We get stuck in our brain and we're not tapping into our emotions and absolutely allowing ourselves to feel it. We get stuck in these thoughts of um, not really thinking about the person, not really attaching the emotions, just that I don't feel good. What's wrong with me? Typically, when we see a client that's stuck in a grief funk, they can't even pinpoint what it is. It just feels funky, right? They
Right.
just come in, they're like, something's wrong. I don't know what this is. And they can't describe it or share with us what it is. And then you and I will have to go work with them to break it down and say, when was the last time you cried? When was
Right.
the last time you thought about David? When was the last time you thought about mom? When was the last time you said mom's name?
Yeah. That there's definitely a disconnect. And
Yeah.
we have to go search it out and then reconnect it and show them the connection so that then, like you said, they can give it voice and get out of the funk. It's funny because they have these commercials now, which I'm very glad that they do for therapy services through BetterHelp.
Mhm.
I've been seeing a lot of commercials for them lately, and it cracks me up that the people will describe like, I've really been feeling anxious, having trouble sleeping, and then they show the part where they talk to their mom or their dad or their best friend, and like the dad tells the girl, "You just need to smile more." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It like cracks me up because that's what happens in our world when
Yes.
people get in the grief funks. Instead of calling us because they're like, "Oh, I don't want to bother them," or we've done the work. I know how to do this. They'll go to an outside person, mom, dad, best friend, and get the wrong advice. And then it perpetuates the funk because then they're like, well, that's not going to help. And
Yeah.
they feel more stuck.
Yeah. The other thing that can happen with someone who is stuck in grief funk is that, Erica, they can hyper focus on something that has nothing to do with where they're at, right? We have clients that are just stuck on the fact that they cannot get their pharmacy to give them the right medication, or they get hyper focused with their job or people at their job. They get hyper focused with someone in their family, or getting the right appointment, or dealing with the cable company, right? So I'm having all this problem with the cable company, and they bring that to our meeting, right? They bring that to our session. They're complaining about that. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's something else going on. And you just ask the question in the right way, and all of a sudden the floodgates just open.
Mhm.
That's typically how we know that a griever is stuck in their funk, is they're complaining about something that has nothing to do with their grief or their broken heart.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to get fixated on something else because you want to take those feelings of unsettledness and sadness and push it on you project it somewhere else because you don't want it to be what it really is, and that's the grief.
One of the things that we do know about people that are stuck in their funk, in their grief funk, and we touched it a little bit earlier, is that they tend to want to self medicate. They tend to want to fix this problem. So I said the extra glass of wine, but they'll do the extra exercise. They'll even go to comfort foods. Someone stuck in their grief funk that's not giving voice to what they're really feeling and not giving voice to the emotion will start to try to self medicate. They'll come up with everything that they can to get away from this feeling and this experience.
Especially when you have felt a little bit of the relief, or you're at least verbally dumping when you get on the phone with someone and you get that, let that little bit of steam off. When you feel the weight of the feelings again, it doesn't feel good. So you want to go to anything that's going to make it stop. You
Right.
just want that quick fix. We don't know how to wait it out, process it, because you're big on, you got to process it, you got
Yeah.
to allow the emotions in to really identify them, one, to even get the right emotion. Because if
Yeah.
you don't do that, you might be, like you said, yelling at the bank teller or going off on people, and that's not the right emotion. What's underneath the anger is something completely different, which is the sadness, the fear, the anxiousness, whatever it is. We got to get the shovels out with them and get to those underlying layers.
And the bottom line is you got to do it first yourself. Grab a piece of paper and a pencil and write it out. GTS it, man. Get this out of your head. Try to write out everything that's there that you're feeling. We don't talk in emotions, and grief is an emotional experience. And because we're not sharing our emotions, we're just sharing that I can't get them to answer the phone. I've been on hold for 4 hours, right? We get so caught up with that, we don't tend to look at the stuff that's really bothering us or really hurting us. Here's the deal also. When you even Google grief funk or I'm stuck in a funk, you will get different sorts of written papers on bless their hearts on different ways to get out of it.
Mm.
You should go for a walk. You should have some comfort food. You should exercise more. You should tell your friend about it. You can meditate. You can call your doctor. What about you can just sit down and be in it for a minute? You can just say, what about identifying it and saying, man, I'm really in a funk here. This grief is really getting me today. And just being in it and sitting in the funk for a minute and try to pull as many emotions as you can. and
Mhm.
putting the name to it of what it really is. I miss him today.
We explained this process to one of our friends. And then when we got on the phone with her, she called us, remember? And she said she was listening to something on the radio and she just got super emotional and she didn't know why. And then she did exactly what we explained to her how to process it, sort out the emotion. And she explained it to us in detail how she traced it back and found out it was something that was back with her first child 20 years ago that got, and we both sat there. We were like,
Yeah.
we were in awe that she really did it. She
Yeah.
got it. She put it to practice. She sorted it all out. She connected the emotion. And then she was able to explain to us why that triggered something for her. And we were in such shock that she got it. Like we were like, gold star, gold star. It really works.
Yeah.
It really works if you do it.
Yeah. You suffered for a year after Donovan
Oh,
died.
yeah. Yep.
You were in the funk for over a year. What if we had been, and that's really what your suffering is, really where we went deeper and deeper and deeper into the grief. And we did some more research and we realized that people sometimes are resisting even feeling.
Yeah.
We resist the feelings because we think we're going to get stuck in this funk and it's going to be like this forever.
Yeah. And while you're in that funk, you're not yourself.
No.
Every part of your life is affected. If you're married, your relationship is affected. If you're a parent, your parenting is affected. Your job is affected. Grief takes over every facet of your life. And the longer you stay in that funk, the longer it will touch everything you do.
So friends, here's the deal. Getting out of the funk, you have to make a conscious decision that this is, you want out. You have to make a conscious decision in your heart and in your soul and your gut. I got to get out of this and I'm going to figure that out. You call a grief specialist and allow her or him to help you out. You write about it and you say the ugly out loud. Even if you're putting it on a piece of paper, just putting it on a piece of paper, you have to say the ugly out loud. Getting out of the grief funk is something you go after. It's not something that will just go away with time. I promise you, it will not melt away with time. You have to go after this.
And if you haven't learned any of our tools, know that this grief funk is going to connect to other pain in your heart. And it's going to be that snowball effect. What started as a little small tennis ball size is going to roll into this big half a mountain size of hurt and pain if you allow it.
On the top of my paper, I would write funk, and then I would write all the emotions that I'm expressing and feeling just for today. That's a great start. That's a great start. Friends, if you want to talk, Eric and I are always here and we're ready to listen. We're ready, willing, and able to help you out. Thank you, friends.
Before we go off, I just want to say, I noticed you have your sister's mug. I'm drinking
Look
out
at
of my
that. Look at that.
Here, sister. Thank you, Charlene.
I already need a second cup of coffee. All right. Bye, friends.
Bye.